Good evening and welcome to Quorum. I'm Wilson Stribling. Today is the 86th day of the 2012 legislative session. Today was the deadline for original floor action on appropriations and revenue bills originating in their own house. Tonight on Quorum, it's all about insurance, all types of insurance in the state. We'll be talking with members of the Senate and House Insurance Committees. Joining us from the Senate tonight is Senator Tony Smith. He is a Republican and is serving his first term in the legislature. His district includes Harrison, Jackson, Pearl River, and Stone counties. Joining us from the House side is the chairman of the Insurance Committee, Representative Gary Chism. He is a Republican. His district includes parts of Clay, Lowndes, and Oktibbeha counties. He's been in the legislature since 2000. Also joining us, Representative Scott Delano. He's a Republican from Harrison County. He has been in the legislature since 2010. And also Representative Tom Miles. He is a Democrat from Scott County. This is his first year in the legislature. And gentlemen, we thank you all for being with us this evening on Quorum.
Glad to be here.
Of course, we want to hear from you tonight. It's your chance to ask questions about our discussion. There's several ways you can do that. You can call toll-free 1-877-405-5247. You can send us an email. The address is quorum@mpbonline.org. Or if you use Twitter, just use this hashtag, Quorum, Quorum. First off, gentlemen, we want to talk about what your committees do. We know what insurance is, but let me start with you, Senator Smith, on the Senate side. What exactly is the Insurance Committee responsible for?
Well, we're going to get all the bills that are authored on the Senate side initially, and we'll work those bills through the committee. And the chairman will assign those out to individual members who are on the committee, and we try to study those and bring them to the committee. Once we pass them out on our side, of course, they'll go to the Senate and we'll vote. Then they'll go to the House. And then the whole process starts over again. We'll get the House bills, we'll take them through committee, and we'll study them, and we'll make recommendations from the committee, and then they'll make it out to the floor again for a vote.
Representative Chism, over on the House side, it seems like you can get bills related to education and health care and some other topics tend to elicit a lot of emotions. Insurance just doesn't seem like an emotional issue, but obviously it's something that's important to you all. And do you have some bills that end up generating some contentious debate?
Oh, yes. Insurance, when you start talking about property and casualty, you start talking about workers' comp, changes in workers' comp, you start talking about mandatory liability insurance, you can get some lively debate.
And we'll talk a little bit about that tonight, maybe have some lively debate as we move along. Let's talk about the insurance industry. Representative Delano, what would you say is the state of the industry in our state now that we're 7 years after Hurricane Katrina? Katrina seemed to change a lot about how insurance, certainly about how some insurance operators operate in this state.
Absolutely. I think, and I'll say this about the Mississippi Gulf Coast, if you didn't know anything about insurance prior to Katrina, you know a whole lot about it now, and unfortunately you had to learn the hard way, or many of us had to learn the hard way. But as far as the health of the industry goes, I know that the industry is looking for some stability. We're looking for some stability as well. And I think that what we try to do here at the legislature is just to bring forward policies that are going to bring the stability, encourage competition, and try to invite other companies to come in and help provide additional coverages for our citizens all across the state.
Because there was a time there when some companies, some big companies, were not writing homeowners policies in Mississippi anymore. Is that still going on?
Most definitely down on the coast. We have about probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 80,000+ homes down on the coast. Almost a third of those, especially right on the lower, right closer to the waterfront, are all in the waterfront, are all in the wind pool, the state-run wind pool program, because we do not have those private providers writing policies all the way down to the beach. And that's something that we're working on. We're working with the industry to try to increase our opportunities there and invite new companies to come in and write. We're slowly seeing that.
Representative Miles, you're new to this process as a new member of the legislature. What are some of the issues you think people are concerned about as they relate to insurance in Mississippi?
Well, it's the price for the insurance, and like Representative Delano was saying, on the coast they have problems getting insurance, but we also have those problems statewide. You're seeing a lot of insurance companies now that are requiring a lot of things that they haven't required in the past. I think they did a survey a couple months ago, and it said in the last 10 years that for every dollar that an insurance company took in on a property and casualty insurance dealing with homeowners insurance, they paid out $1.29. So they're losing a good portion. So what you're seeing a lot of companies go into today is they're requiring to have your automobile insurance to write your homeowners insurance policies and that deal, and then you're seeing some companies that don't want to write homeowners insurance anymore just because it's not profitable for them. But what we're trying to do is the insurance committee and the House of Representatives and the Senate's working with us as well, is to work to bring good companies to Mississippi so that we can work to get these rates down for our consumers here at home.
And does it work like private business does, where if you have more competition, that the rates typically come down?
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. We're welcome to bring any company in that wants to come into Mississippi, and they're willing to pay the claims when we have claims, and we're willing to work with them, and we want them to come here so we can get these rates lowered for our consumers.
All right, well, we already have a caller on the line who has a question about what we're talking about tonight. This is Renee in Pascagoula. Renee, go ahead with your question, please.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Thank you for this wonderful program and for to make a comment. Briefly, I just wanted to be grateful to the gentleman for working in this issue that is so pivotal to us here in the coast. Forgive me for being a little nervous.
That's fine. Just go ahead with your question, please.
Thank you. My question is, will we have the courage to think out of the box in resolving this issue that has taken so many people under? I'm amazed by the fact that we are still, many of us have to be working at home all this time after the hurricane. And, maybe it's pride not to ask for any help, or many reasons, red tape and things of that sort. But definitely insurance is very pivotal to the future of many cities here in the coast. And I just wanted to congratulate the gentleman for having the courage to speak into issues and to actually take them on. Best to the new gentlemen there. And we are praying for Mississippi. Thank you for your time. Allow me.
All right, Renee, thank you. Thank you for your comments from Pascagoula. Renee, obviously, lots of folks on the coast in particular still concerned, like you were talking about, Representative Delano. We have another caller on the phone now, Jesse, calling from West Point. Jesse, go ahead with your question, please.
Yes, I would like to know if you can have, it's mandatory to have liability insurance on automobile. Why can't it be mandatory to have health insurance?
Interesting question.
What he's referring to is the Mississippi in 1952 passed the Mississippi Automobile Liability and Safety Law. And it requires that everybody that drives on Mississippi roads has to have the minimum limits of liability, $25,000, $50,000 per occurrence, $25,000 property damage, to protect the other person that you're going to run into. The difference between this and Obamacare, which his question is leading to, because that's what the Supreme Court's question these last 2 or 3 days was about the individual mandate.
Is whether you should be required by the federal government to purchase health insurance.
That's right. And this is the federal government requiring you to buy a product. Now, we require you to buy a product to protect the other person, but not for yourself. When you are driving that automobile, you're responsible for any damage that you may cause to the other person. We don't require you to buy comprehensive and collision on your own automobile, but we require you to protect the other person, and that's what he's referring to.
So you see the distinction as it's okay to mandate protection for someone else you might cause
injure
harm
or cause property damage to, yes.
But you draw the line at being required to purchase something that would protect yourself.
That's exactly right.
Anybody else have any different thoughts on that?
I agree with what's been said. I think you should have minimum coverages at least that would protect someone that you may be in an accident with. If you hit me in my vehicle, I shouldn't be required to cover the damages that maybe you caused. And so by having that requirement, at least I have some protection through uninsured motorist or whatever that would help out. But I think it'd be a great requirement that they would have coverage that would protect my property.
The problem with, let me touch on this, please, that there's 1 in 4 people in the state of Mississippi that are on the road that don't have mandatory, they don't have the liability insurance that they're required to have now. And most of the claims that are filed on insurance policies are dealing with uninsured drivers. So I've been told by some insurance agents that 85 to 90% of the claims that they set up are with people that are not insured. But that's just driving is a privilege that we all have. So that's, I think, why this law is in place now today.
Let's talk about Senate Bill 2578. It would extend the repealer on the Comprehensive Hurricane Damage Mitigation Program. First of all, Representative Delano, if you could explain exactly what that means, and then let's talk a little bit more about it.
Well, actually, that specific bill was drafted and originally passed by our now Commissioner of Insurance, Mike Chaney. Mm-hmm. When he was a senator, he led the charge after Katrina to help bring some solutions or some way of trying to slow down the ever-increasing cost of insurance. And we weren't able to slow it down that much. But this was a program that was put out. He had looked at other states, found what they had done in South Carolina, what had been done in Florida. And Florida had made a lot of mistakes over the years with how they've run their insurance program and how they've managed their public plan. We did not want to have a lot of those same mistakes made here in Mississippi. So they did a really good job of going out there. They knew that they needed to have a study done on the coast to see what it would cost to help fortify those homes and get a condition, just a baseline condition for those homes. And this bill was allowed for some of those provisions. It also allowed for the insurance companies to provide a mitigation program to allow for homeowners to have discounts. And this repealer is just allowing for those programs to continue and to go on. But I must tell you this, that was one step in a 5 or 6 or 7 step process. And each year it seems like we've taken another bite at the apple. And now we've got another bill that's working through the process right now that is going to be something that will supersede this, and it is a mitigation program where we finally are able to match the discount rates that people are looking for, or maybe I should say the discounts in insurance premiums that people are looking for, with the mitigation measures that we're telling people that they have to do or they need to do to their home. We always have said you've got to build stronger, you've got to build safer homes, but we've never been able to have a direct tie or a direct link to some type of discounts on insurance.
So if you build up to this level, or if you build some sort of protective barrier or whatever it calls for, that's what you're talking about mitigation,
well, like I
then
said,
you can get this discount?
Yes, sir. Like I said, it's a multi-step process. And one of those other steps that we did a long time ago is we implemented building codes for the Gulf Coast. And those building codes are some of the strongest in the country. And we've taken those codes and we've said, hey, this is just a minimum code. And what we're going to do and what we're going to provide for is we're going to provide some additional codes that are supplemental codes, and we call that Code Plus. And if you build to those Code Plus standards, what it's designed to do, those Code Plus standards are designed to reduce the amount of risk that you're going to have to windstorm loss.
So it would lower your rates.
And that's the connection that we've always wanted to make. We've always told the insurance industry, hey, if we're going to reduce your risk of windstorm loss, then we certainly want to see a corresponding reduction in rates or premiums, I should say, to our policyholders and our homeowners on the coast. The bill that we're working through right now, which I must tell you, Commissioner Chaney has been great to work with us and to help us get these programs put into place and these bills in line. He and his staff have worked with us to make sure we get this through, and we're working that through. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be something good, and it has an opportunity not to help everyone on the coast. It's not going to help a whole lot of people on the coast, but it will help some, and that's the next step that we've got to take, and we'll keep making those steps. And like the caller said, we've got to think outside the box, and that's exactly what we're doing here.
There was such debate after Katrina. We heard it so much about wind versus water, and what caused the damage to your property. Was it the wind or was it the water? Because if it's this, we'll cover it. If it's that, we won't. And if you have proof that one did it and the other didn't, then we can talk. Has anything changed in relation to that, or will we have that debate all over again if, heaven forbid, if we have another Katrina?
I think it's already been settled that the Fifth Circuit has ruled that where you can show the water damage is going to be covered under flood, not under homeowners. Wind damage is going to be covered under the homeowners policy. So I think that most of that is already settled law. So I don't think we're going to go back over this again.
But wasn't the debate back then could you prove which it was? Was it the wind or was it the water?
Causation is what the phrase that I think they used. But they said that the insurance company has to prove one way or the other. Before, it was the homeowner had to prove.
So that's what's changed since Katrina.
That's what's changed. That's right.
So the burden is now on the insurance company. And because you essentially have battling insurance companies. You've got the wind coverage or the flood coverage.
Yes.
Versus the homeowners.
That's right.
And who's going to cover it?
That's exactly right. So I think that has been resolved, that we would just, you would have to, the insurance company would have to prove that the water caused the damage or that the wind caused the damage before they would be paying.
And then we talk about who's responsible.
That's right.
At that point.
Wilson, if I may interject on that, I will say that I think if you talk to people on the coast, there is a lot of concern still about what happens in that next situation. And when we look at these issues, I think that especially the dual causation issue, that's going to be something that needs to be handled at the federal level. I don't think that's something that we're going to be able to handle here at the state level through state law or even through the commissioner's policy. But there's going to be some federal guidelines that need to come down. There's been a lot of things that have been proposed. But again, it's going to take, there's no magical pill here, and we're going to have to keep continuing to work to try to resolve these issues as we move forward.
Well, I promise we're not going to spend the entire hour talking about the Mississippi Gulf Coast, but because it has been such a major factor when it comes to insurance, or these issues have been a major factor. But are insurance rates at this point, 7 years after Katrina, are they a barrier to further development down there? And if so, how big a barrier are they?
Well, I'd say it definitely is. I live in Pearl River County, and I can relate to the costs that I've experienced. We had no flood where we live, but we're paying much higher premiums. I know my homeowner's policy increased about $1,200 from the day before the hurricane to what I pay this year. So I believe for us to have economic development, getting people to return to the Gulf Coast area, we've got to bring in more companies where we can get those prices down and make it more affordable. Many people can't afford their mortgage when you factor in the cost of the insurance. So, I think our job as legislators, and we all can agree on this, whether you live in North Mississippi or South Mississippi, we need to create a business environment that will create more competition, that will ultimately bring costs down, and thus, as consumers, we'll pay less.
How can you do that, though? How can you lure another insurance provider into the state where the risk could be so great, especially down on the coast? What can the legislature do to induce these companies to come down here?
Well, part of it might be that the Representative Delano just talked about the Commissioner of Insurance, Mike Chaney, has done a good job of trying to sell Mississippi to have companies to come look at us and to, think of starting writing insurance here. He's got to be the #1 salesman out there. We've got to have laws that aren't punitive towards insurance companies to entice them to come down here. The wind pool that was mentioned a while ago, a lot of companies had to step up and pay a lot of money out that they didn't really realize that they were going to be. They didn't want to write anything on the coast. Yet because of the wind pool and the wind pool losses, they suffered a lot of surplus that they had to pay into that to pay for the wind pool losses. So we've got to try to keep the wind pool as few people as possible in that wind pool so that they won't be tagged for that big amount should another hurricane come.
It's been a while since the wind pool was in the news. For folks who don't remember, explain exactly what the wind pool is.
Well, the wind pool is a state-run agency that really goes out and buys reinsurance. There is money that comes in to that fund from appropriations from the legislature every year to try to maintain wind coverage for people that are on the coast where no wind coverage is available.
I see.
Wilson, I'd like to interject here too. One of the problems is that trying to get more companies to come into our state is that our population is so small, and that it's not enough people to spread the risk like it is in a lot of other areas, so that's what we run into. I spoke to someone in the commissioner's office the other day, and he was telling me that there's 5 or 6 more companies that are looking to do property and casualty insurance, which would be your homeowners and your automobile insurance, to help with the rates within this next year that we're already working toward.
Let's move on to House Bill 1078. It died in the House Insurance Committee, and from the way I understand it, it basically would require you to have proof of automobile insurance before you could get registration or renewal. It's come up before. It has died before. Why does it keep dying, and do we need it?
Well, we've got another bill besides this one that is alive and well, and it's called the Insurance Verification and Enforcement Act. And what it's going to do is use technology to, when you go to your courthouse and you type in your tag number, it's going to instantly tell the tax collector whether you have liability insurance or not. If you don't have liability insurance, you're not going to get your tag. And then if you're pulled over for any lawful stop, and the highway patrolman can key in your tag number, and it's going to supersede your card. Oftentimes, Wilson, people buy insurance and they get a card that says they got coverage for 6 months.
And they forget to put in the card.
Well, that could happen, but a lot of them, what they do is let it lapse after the first month. They've got a card that when they are pulled over, they can show that they've got liability insurance, when in fact they didn't.
Because they haven't paid the bill.
Because they hadn't paid the bill. But it's going to be seamless for the highway patrolman just to be able to type in and get the information of whether you've got liability insurance or not. And the fine is going to be $300 first offense, $400 second offense, $500 the third offense. And you got to pay that fine to be able to get your license reinstated. So that bill is working through the legislature right now. It will be on the House floor next week.
It sounds good on the surface, but what about the technology to make that happen? Do you have to go and install these computers or the software to make this?
No, there's vendors out there that's already got this technology available, and it's already in other states. And this is an internet-based system, so there's not a whole lot of infrastructure that you've got to have locally to be able to put this in.
So are all of you in favor of some sort of requirement when you get your registration and renewal that you have to prove that you've got insurance?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I think the majority of the people in Mississippi want that because they're tired of being run over by uninsured drivers. That was an issue that was brought to my attention a lot back when we were campaigning back during the summer and fall, that people were asking, what are you going to do about these people that are driving that are supposed to have insurance and don't have it, because I'm tired of getting run over by people that don't have insurance.
Well, why have all these past efforts to do something similar to this failed?
Part of it is politics. It is one of the most controversial bills that when we hit the House floor, it'll be the most controversial bill down there.
But all of you seem to be in agreement. While this is not exactly a microcosm of the full body.
We ain't the problem. But it will be. Last year, this bill passed last year. The governor vetoed the bill. And he vetoed the bill because he thought it was going to cost like $1 million to implement. It wasn't going to cost $1 million to implement, but he vetoed it, before he found that out. And so, but it was a 3-hour debate, 2 points of order, the most racially divisive bill on the House floor. And, it passed, but it was a chore to get it passed. But in years past, other insurance committee chairman didn't want to take this bill up. In fact, it didn't come through insurance last year. It came through transportation last year. Had it gone to insurance, it would have found the death that it's always found.
Well, we'll see what happens this time around. We have another caller with us. John calling from Clarksdale, Mississippi. John, go ahead with your question, please.
Fine. How you doing this afternoon?
Fine, thanks.
I'm calling regardless to insurance. I received my driving license when I was 16 years old, and I'm 72 now. I've been with the same insurance company for 46 years. And I moved here to Coahoma County in Clarksdale, Mississippi. I was paying $150 for the same insurance that I got, full coverage, everything. I won't drive without that. And I moved here, and it cost me an extra $100 more in Coahoma County than it is in any other county. Could you tell me the reason, the difference, why so much here and so less? And all of the big wheel cars running around with no insurance, but I will not drive a car without insurance. Never had a ticket, been on the road for a long time. Good driving record, good citizenship record.
All right, John, thank you. Why the fluctuation in cost?
Well, what you run into is an example on that. It depends, a lot depends on the area that the person is located in, and it's based off the number of claims they have. Say, for example, you may live in one part of a county that has one zip code, then you move 7 miles down the road and has another zip code, and they may have more claims, and they base that off the claims. That has a lot to do with the rates on that.
So it's the drivers who came before you. How many folks have had wrecks in that particular
it's just
area?
the law of average and law of numbers, and that's the way they do. A lot of companies determine their debate.
There's a greater risk in this zip code, so the rates are going to be higher there than over here in the country. Where
exactly, and that varies state to state too, but it also varies county to county or even city to city inside the same county.
Even if you have the same carrier and all those.
Exactly.
You know, one of the examples, I actually inquired about my auto insurance, and I was told it was our proximity to New Orleans. So that ratio of losses, it affects you where you live. So depending on where you live, it reflects the rate that you pay.
Interesting. Another caller with us now, Roger, calling from Ocean Springs. Roger, go ahead, please.
I want to know why when a officer stops someone in a vehicle and they find that they don't have insurance, that they let them proceed on down the road instead of impounding the vehicle. It's like letting a drunk go on down the road. Just give him a ticket and let him go.
Interesting comparison.
Well, you know, the highway patrol or the sheriff or anybody does not have the authority to impound the vehicle because Mississippi law doesn't call for that. And what are you going to do with all the vehicles you found it anyway? You know.
Well, then what's the incentive for obeying the law and what the law tells you to do?
Well, this bill that we mentioned just a while ago that's going to come out on the House floor, the incentive is going to be the $300, $400, $500 fine to get your license back. You know, that's going to make a big difference, we think. Now, there's 28%. Mississippi has the highest uninsured motorist rate in the nation. It's 28% of the drivers. And we think that this particular bill might be able to knock off 20% of that. There's still going to be 7, 8, 9% of the people that's just not going to get it. You know, but impounding the vehicles, you know, first thing is who owns the vehicle. You know, I don't know where they would put all these cars. With 28% of them not having liability insurance, the Coliseum grounds won't hold them. You know.
And we should point out they might not be impounding the car, but you do get cited for it.
That's right.
They don't just tell you to go on about your merry way.
Well, the way the current liability insurance law is now is it's a $500 fine if you get caught without insurance. But what you do is when you go, like he was speaking about earlier, you go and buy the insurance policy and they reduce the fine down to $100. So the current law, it's there, but it really doesn't have any teeth to then enforce the law.
And it gives you a chance to get into compliance, which is
that's right,
which isn't all bad. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Another caller now, Sharon, calling from Oxford. Sharon, go ahead, please.
Hi. I was calling because everybody's been talking about auto and property insurance. I'm interested in health insurance, and I wanted to find out why it is that in the same state, in the same town, I could work for an employer who has 25 people, same insurance carrier, 25 people at one, 100 people at another, and then get on the state employment health insurance and have a worse system. In other words, having to pay $500 $500 deductible when the firm where I worked earlier that only had 20 people, I didn't have to pay a deductible. And it just goes against common sense as far as I'm concerned in terms of spreading the risk. It would seem like state employees, there are way more state employees, we should be able to get a better deal. So I was wondering if you could comment on that. Thank you.
State employees is really not insurance. We make a direct appropriation every year for whatever it costs. Blue Cross does handle as a vendor to handle our claims, but we don't really have an insurance policy backing it up. What we have is a direct appropriation every year, and it's based upon the claims that we pay. So we're not making $1 off the state insurance fund, health insurance fund. It's dollars paid in versus dollars paid out.
Is that the best arrangement?
That's the best arrangement. Our loss ratio is so bad that insurance companies won't even quote state employees. So that's the only option we have at this particular time.
Right, so we're self-insured is what we are.
That's right,
yeah.
We're self-insured.
Wilson, something to point out, though, is that what the caller was saying is exactly what a lot of us think, is that the private sector is able to go out and they can shop for a plan that meets their needs for their employees. And that's what we want to foster. As what she's pointing out and what we're saying up here, the state's not good at insurance, at providing health insurance for people, for its citizens, or excuse me, for its workers and its employees. We wish we could be better at that, but the private sector is always going to be better at doing things than the state will be. So I think that it's really good to hear someone point out the fact that that an employee can go out and pick a plan that's best suits their needs, and they can keep their employees there by providing those incentives and those benefits to them. And that's something that that we wish we could do a better job at, but with the risks that we've got, it's difficult for us to achieve that.
To touch on another thing about that, Wilson, a lot of people go to work for the state for health insurance, and we have a lot of unhealthy people and a lot of older people that are in the system, and that's the whole reason, you know, one of the major benefits that they have is going to work for that, because a lot of people just can't qualify for a private insurance plan because a lot of the stipulations on them. So you'll see their spouse or loved one that'll go get on that plan, and like Representative Chism said earlier, we as a state, we have to pay for it, but you know, that's also a benefit to the employees that work for the state, is so they can have insurance that they may not get it somewhere else.
Let's talk. We talked about uninsured motorists. Let's talk about folks who cannot get health insurance or perhaps homeowners insurance. What sort of programs are out there for those folks who can't find insurance or can't find insurance that they can afford?
We have, through the state, handling both of those things. We have a comprehensive assigned risk health insurance plan that for people that can't buy health insurance, they can. This is a volunteer plan that's worked with the insurance department to try to afford those to be able to, you know, to buy health insurance. It's got a long waiting period, so you wouldn't be immediately covered for some items, but you can buy it. It is. We may not publicize it enough, but you can get it.
And what's it called again? The
Comprehensive Assigned Risk Health Insurance Plan. And then we also have a similar plan for homeowners. Actually, it's not homeowners, I don't think. I think it's more of just a dwelling fire policy. But you can buy coverage, you know, through this assigned risk homeowners plan. And you've got, and we're going to take you. So, I mean, you know, we're going to write the coverage for you. So we've stepped up and tried to handle this before Obamacare ever come about, of trying to afford affordable insurance for unhealthy people.
Well, that's the question. Is it something that people can afford? How do you keep the rates at that?
You know, it's all of it's high. The health insurance rates are high. They're high for us state employees, and they're certainly high for the assigned risk plan, but it provides you some coverage.
Some of you have served longer than others in the legislature, and Representative Chism, you've been in the longest. What are the biggest changes you've seen in your time, speaking specifically to insurance in Mississippi?
Oh, there hadn't been a whole lot other than some repealers and bills that the department always wanted until this year. This year we've been able to get out some bills that are a lot more controversial maybe, but some things that we may need to change, like workers' comp laws and for this Insurance Verification Act, and so I really haven't seen a lot of changes. Insurance is pretty boring, as far as being on that committee, because you handle a lot of department bills, and so there's not a whole lot to get excited about.
What's different about this year? Is it the change in the political power?
It is. It is. If there was, if the Democrats were in charge, there wouldn't be an insurance bill coming out. They would be the same as what they've always done.
Well, Representative Miles, you're our lone Democrat on the panel tonight. Do you agree with that? Do you think that that would be the case? That it would be the same as always, and is that a bad thing?
Well, I don't know. I really wasn't here before. This is my first time here in the House, and I ran on the issue of putting my county first on every issue, and I think one of my slogans was that every vote that I take and every decision that I make, I was going to put Scott County first, and what was right for the people.
All right, well, let's go back to the phones now. Eric is phoning in from Jackson with a question. Eric, go ahead with your question, please.
Yes, I've been paying comprehensive for the past 10 or 12 years with one provider. It's a major provider here in this country. I've never made a claim in my life with accidents. I've had one speeding ticket that was over 8 years ago in California when I was driving an 18-wheeler. But I'm wondering, if I decide to change my carrier or change over to do anything, why do I lose all that money? How come this money doesn't go into my special account? Because if I have a wreck tomorrow, I'll drive a car that's almost 12 years old, it's got 160,000 miles on it, and they're not going to pay me $10,000, and that's what I paid these people in the past 10 years. And I'm tired of the insurance companies, all the laws going for their benefit. It doesn't seem fair, to put it very bluntly. Thank you very much.
Do you hear this argument often? That you pay premiums for many, many years, but they don't build on each other, and certainly not with the comprehensive auto policy.
Just like in life insurance, you pay a premium for a year. If you don't die, you lose your money. Just in automobile insurance, if you don't have a wreck, or if you don't and need the automobile insurance, you don't get a buildup of money. So, that's just the way insurance is. You can we'll sell you what you want, but there is no buildup about it. If you swap companies, you could easily find somebody cheaper next year. And when you move, that new company is agreeing to cover you for that year. And if you have a wreck, they'll step up and pay. If you don't have a wreck, you've really just lost your money.
You're paying for the security of having it.
You're paying for the security. That's right.
But you really think about it, the insurance company is taking a risk with you that you're not going to need their service. I'm paying a premium because I'm thinking I might need it.
That's right.
And so who wins at the end of the year? Depends on if I have an accident. So it's business. So we cannot expect insurance companies not to be somewhat profitable because they are in the risk business, and they have got to have the reserves and to be able to meet any demand that may fall on them.
All right, another caller with us, Edward, calling from Philadelphia, Mississippi. Edward, go ahead, please.
Yes, I was wondering why, if a person's on a fixed income and you can't afford the insurance for a vehicle, what are you going to do about how are you going to get back and forth from the doctors and hospitals and everything if you can't get a tag for your vehicle? And like people that's on income at $500 or $600 a month, and all they got is disability Social Security coming in, how are they going to afford insurance for a vehicle?
So we talked about some programs out there for homeowners and for health insurance. What about automobile insurance assistance?
I will bet that even though he says he's on a fixed income, I bet you he's got a cell phone, or I bet you that he's got some kind of cable TV. Either one of them will cost more than what liability insurance will cost at the minimum limits if you're a good driver and of age, not youthful operators. So, 25, 50, 25 will cost you $50 a month. That's $600 a year, and I bet you he's paying more than that for those other items.
So
it's a matter of choice.
And misplaced priorities?
That's misplaced priorities. That's exactly right.
Well, Wilson, they determine insurance off of several things. It's like Representative Chism said, they determine off your age, they determine off your credit, they determine off if you've had insurance or not, they determine if you're a safe driver with no tickets or no accidents, and
you don't live near New Orleans.
Right. But I kind of disagree with Ms. Chisholm that $50 a month sometimes may be high on some instances, especially for someone that's mature, because some people can buy insurance, I think, for $120, $150 a month if they fit in the right categories on there. And I've seen people that pay around $30 a month, just to have liability and uninsured motors to make sure that their property is covered. So it's affordable if you want to do it. But I understand the economy, and I understand everyone else's circumstances too. But you've also got to remember, if you run over somebody out there and you injure them and you tear up their property, it's what we think about a lot. But we also don't think about if we were to injure them personally or were to kill them. You want them to be taken care of, because if you don't, some of these attorneys are going to come back and sue you for your mishaps there. It just kind of protects you there.
For what you do have.
Exactly.
If it's not enough to afford the insurance. Another caller with us now, David, calling from Batesville. David, go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. I was wondering about this homeowner insurance on trailers. They keep going up on you. They started off the last job paying $151 or something. Now they're gone to $179, up to $189 with the last time I got with the bill. And I wonder how they can keep doing that on my house trailer.
Is it different for house trailers? I imagine the rates are pretty different than for a permanent home?
Well, I think it's all about an assumption of risk. And when you look at how a trailer is built and how it is put on a site versus, and you compare that to a well-built home, especially a house that's built to code, you're going to have a much higher risk with the trailer.
You're talking about the insurer has a higher risk.
The insurer is going to have a higher risk, and the homeowner is going to have a higher risk of loss as well, of having a wind event and not coming back to a home. So that's something you have to keep in mind as well. But I think what we see this all across the state, that there are insurance rates for homeowners, regardless of where you are going to go up. And a lot of that has to do with the science that's behind the premiums and the actuarial filings that are done and the plans that are done. The science has gotten much better since Katrina, and as a result of that, insurance companies are finding that they are subject to much more risk than they originally had thought. And Representative Miles pointed this out earlier about the losses that they were seeing versus the premiums they were taking in. And any business is going to try to find a way to better categorize or provide premium cost for the risk that they're assuming. So that being said, I think all across the state, you're going to see insurance rates that are going to go up, and it's not going to necessarily be because the insurance agent is trying to go up in rates. It's the reinsurance that company or that insurance provider is having to purchase. The cost of that reinsurance is going up worldwide, and it's going up in the computer models that are used to calculate those premiums and that risk are showing that there's a higher probability of windstorm loss in inland areas, more so than we have seen in the past few iterations of these model runs that have been done. So I fully expect to see that not just on trailers, but on all homeowners across the state, and that's something we've got to be prepared for. And we're going to have to find a way to look at what we've done on some of the ideas that we've taken on the coast to help stabilize insurance rates and do the same thing for some of the inland areas.
Explain what you mean by reinsurance.
Insurance companies, it's just like we buy insurance because we don't want to carry all the risk of all the risk ourselves. We don't want to bear all the risk. We want to abdicate that risk to an insurance company. Well, when an insurance company has a plan that's in the billions of dollars, and they have the total value of their plan, of claims value of it, would be, you know, in the billions of dollars, they want to abdicate some of that risk also. So they're going to go to Bermuda or to London, and they're going to talk to companies about buying reinsurance. And that reinsurance are companies that are going to take a little bit of risk in the United States. They're going to take a little bit of risk in Canada, in Taiwan.
So
they're going to take it
steps
all around.
From my agent to on up. He's being insured by somebody who's being insured by somebody.
And a lot of these plans that we have here within our state, up to about 50%, if not a little bit more, of the premium that you're paying for is actually premium that's going towards reinsurance. So that's why when we looked at how do you control, or how do you help control or stabilize the cost of insurance premiums on the coast, we not only looked at the insurance companies that we were dealing with here in the state, the providers, but we also looked at those reinsurance companies and said, what can we do to provide more data for you to plug into your computers to show what your risks actually are?
Okay. Obesity. It's a big problem in Mississippi. Some have sought out surgery to help them, and it's had dramatic results for a lot of people. There's a House Bill 32, that sought to require certain insurance policies to cover, I guess it's bariatric surgery we're talking about. It died in the House committee. Why?
That particular bill died, but another bill, both of these were dealing with bariatric surgery on the state plan, the state employees' health insurance plan.
Okay.
That's what, and so that one died, another one was passed. So they had two bills in there, and the other one passed the House. I don't know where it is over in the Senate.
So this means then their health insurance would cover bariatric surgery in some instances?
It would.
But just for state people on the state
plan. That's right, state plan. We're not requiring other health insurance companies to cover that type of surgery. Mm-hmm. This is just for our plan, the state employees plan.
So that one's making its way through the...
It's making it through. I don't know where it is in the Senate, but we passed it out of the House.
Okay.
And Wilson, it's not for anyone and everyone. It was for a very small number of people, a very limited number of highly medical or medical needs that really required them to do that. So we're working through those.
I have another caller on the line now, Walt, calling from Meridian. Walt, go ahead with your question, please.
Well, yes, thank you. I came in kind of late to the conversation, and this is for Representative Chism. At the point I came in, the representative said that we don't have enough room to put cars that don't have insurance and have them towed away. My suggestion is that the reason I'm paying more insurance premium is because we got 1 in 4 people in Mississippi don't have insurance. And I've been victimized by that. And I say put a Denver boot on every one of them on the side of the road. When you stop them at a side road for any kind of check, you put a Denver boot on them, and there's plenty of tow lots in Mississippi that'll be happy to carry those things away, and it don't matter whether the guy owns his own car or the finance company owns his own car. That guy don't need to be driving if he don't have insurance, because I'm paying for him.
Would the shoulders of the roads be filled with booted cars if we did that? It's an interesting suggestion.
You know, he addressed it. He addressed it to me. You know, I would like to do that. I would like to do that, but where are you going to put all of these? And the nightmare of trying to do the paperwork and trying to figure out who owns what. And I would like to just do it a different way. And that is the way that this bill that we were talking about,
the internet-based
system, that's going to lower it from hopefully 28 down to about 8%.
Of the folks who are uninsured.
To the folks that's uninsured.
And again, the way that would work is when you go to renew or buy your tag, this internet-based system would check to make sure you have current liability insurance.
That's right. Or if you're pulled over for any lawful stop or involved in any accident.
Now, run the numbers.
They're going to run it, and you know, just like he has been hit by somebody, every one of us has been hit by them, or we've got family members that's hit by them. And so, you know, I really think this is a better way to start trying to make Mississippians be more responsible.
Representative Delano, you mentioned that rates are going up, that the rates across the board will continue to go up. Are they going up more than usual, or is it something we should expect every year? Does it rise with the rate of inflation? Does it go higher than that? What controls the way the rates move?
I think a lot of it has to do with the markets and the individual areas, the areas that you live in, and how your homes, if we're talking about homes, we're really looking at how well are they built. And it goes back to how much risk are you asking the insurance companies to assume. But I will tell you this, that when we talked about reinsurance earlier, when we talk about reinsurance rates, you got to remember that they're dealing on a global market. And if you look at all the disasters that occurred worldwide this year, this was the most costly year on record. And what we've heard from buyers that have gone to Bermuda and to London to help purchase reinsurance for our wind pool plan is that there are a lot of companies around the world that are saying, hey, we don't, you know, I know we did business with you last year, but we really took a big hit in Indonesia. So those other markets and these events that have occurred around the world are going to affect rates here in Coahoma County, Mississippi, or in Biloxi, Mississippi. It's going to affect everywhere.
So it's just inevitable, in other words.
Well, it's inevitable. We've got to do what we can to help minimize that risk. And then the other thing that we've got to be able to do is we've got to be able to provide data to show that we are actually reducing risk. We got to show that by building to higher codes and to building to a building code, that is lowering the risk for the insurance companies. And when they look at what their risks are within their plan, we've got to be able to show them that it's lower than where they perceive it to be. We have to have the data, the science behind it, and use their same methodology to show them and to prove that we're not, or that we're a lower risk than what they want to perceive us to be.
Wilson, it's just getting hard to get homeowners insurance for a lot of people because of the claims that we're having, even here in Mississippi, and a lot of things like Representative Delano was saying. But I would like to encourage the viewers, if they have a homeowners insurance policy, to keep it. Pay it first, because it's hard when you lose that homeowners insurance to get it with another carrier, because a lot of carriers won't take you anymore because you've had a lapse in coverage. So, you know, if you're going to move to another company, you know, that's fine, but don't let that policy lapse, because, you know, a lot of customers just have a hard time replacing that coverage, because after they've let that policy go out, some companies just won't rewrite them.
And you see on the news tragedies where people have a house, a fire in their apartment, or they're renting a home, so they don't think that they need the homeowners insurance, or they don't, they obviously wouldn't have homeowners, but they are renters policies that in many cases are very inexpensive.
They are.
But they cover the contents of your home, yes. So you could
renters policies are $100 to $150 a year.
A year.
A year.
Mm-hmm.
Wilson, I want to say something real quick and follow up on what Representative Miles said. The biggest story that I tell, or the biggest thing that I tell all of my constituents on the coast, and anyone on the coast, is yes, it's very important to have homeowners insurance. But with all the new companies that are coming in or that are testing the waters with windstorm insurance, it's vitally important for them to shop around and go and see who's out there and who can provide them coverage, because you may find that if you're with a particular company today and they're providing you windstorm a policy with wind, that there may be another provider out there that's able to write you a lower overall premium by going out in the market and putting together a plan that's best for your specific needs. Because you also have to think about how you oh my God, deductibles.
There
Your
you go.
deductible rate. I'm sorry. How your deductibles are if you're at 2% or if it's a flat rate of 10,000. So you need, as a homeowner, you need to go out there, see what's out there, and what is best for you in your particular situation.
Shop around. We're going to try to squeeze in one caller in our remaining minutes here. This is Ryan in Jackson. Quickly go ahead with your question, please, Ryan.
I've been a customer with Allstate for some time and had a homeowners policy, and I received a notice from them that unless I purchased another product, i.e. their car insurance from them, that my homeowners policy would not renew. And I was just wanting to get the thoughts on this, if this was, something that is common in the insurance industry, because it seems a little strange that they're basically telling me unless I buy two products from them that they won't sell me one product.
Encouraging them to bundle.
Well,
is that
Wilson? That's kind of like what I was speaking about before when we began this conversation. A lot of these insurance companies, they're losing money on the homeowners insurance, and I mentioned that at the beginning, that they're requiring you now to have your automobile with them
before they'll write the policies.
Before they'll keep the homeowners.
And that's okay.
And they're not the only
do that?
Yes, sir. That's okay. And they're not the only company that's doing that. You're going to see more and more companies go to that, not because they want to do that, but just because they're forced to, just to stay in the marketplace to keep a competitive rate, for the consumer.
So they might actually take a loss on one of the policies to get you to write the other policy.
Exactly. Their deal is if they're going to lose money on the homeowner's insurance policy, they would like to at least have a car with them so they can, help out a little bit on the other things.
Wilson, also, one problem that we have, because we mentioned it earlier, that we're a small state, we're a rural state, 1/2 of 1% written in the entire United States is written in Mississippi. Every company, Allstate, State Farm, every company can do without Mississippi at a blink of an eye. We need to be encouraging more companies to come here, but they know when they come here, the demographics that we have, a rural state, less fire protection, and other things.
It was a quick hour for talking about insurance for 60 Minutes. We thank you all for joining us tonight. We thank you for joining us on Quorum. We'll see you here next Wednesday evening on Mississippi Public Broadcasting. I'm Wilson Stribling. Good night.